video, we're going to have a look at develop writing skills necessary for participation in academic contexts. Western academic contexts require a greater volume of extended writing genres than educational contexts from other cultures. Students who enter a Western academic system without having developed the skills of writing lengthy texts in their first language are doubly disadvantaged. Firstly, by working in the second language, and then secondly, by being inexperienced and unskilled in the writing of longer texts. Let's have a look at systematic approach, the genre theory. So, a systematic approach to teaching academic writing is based on the genre theory with a focus on the audience, the purpose of communication, text organization, and style. Some genres commonly associated with academic writing include essays, so usually from around 1,500 to 6,000 words, which include expository, argument, comparing and contrasting, multiple texts, summaries, etc. Another genre is literary reviews, so literature reviews, as well as laboratory reports, case studies, comparisons, research proposals, research papers, which are usually around 3,000 to 6,000 words, including data commentary and report of a problem or processes and solution. Dissertations, so 6,000 to 20,000 words, as well as thesis, which is usually around 30,000 to 60,000 words. Earlier, in relation to developing reading skills, it was mentioned that students need practice in understanding assignment questions and tasks. So students need to be able to determine the genre for their response. Will it be an explanation, a persuasive text, a report, or another genre? This instruction is found in the command word used, for example, discuss, compare, and analyze. The topic or focus is another part of the assignment task that is vital to understand correctly. Students need to practice identifying the topic and what they are expected to address about the topic. Text analysis activities that highlight the stages and language features of specific text types unlock the mechanisms of writing for specific purposes. With the structural outline to follow and training in use of cohesive devices and references, students can compose well-organized texts that meet the assignment requirements. Kongpak 2006 reports on his use of a genre approach to teaching academic writing with students in Thailand, and he followed the teacher learning cycle that was described by Hammond et al. 1992, using some activities that I'm going to show you now in relation to the stages of the cycle. So let's have a look at that. So you should be familiar with the learning cycle approach. We've had a look at it in chapters 2, 3, right up to chapters 8 of our textbook. And that's where we explore the building knowledge of the field, modelling of the text, joint negotiation, construction, as well as independent construction. So Kongpak, he used these activities noted in order to teach the genre-based approach for academic writing. So he got students to follow this structure, beginning with building knowledge of the fields. He used written and graphic materials, brainstorming, use of dictogloss, videos and note-taking, group oral presentations. Students selected relevant materials for the text, and he expanded vocabulary and conceptualizations of the topic in English. He then moved on to modelling of the text and looked at text analysis in regards to social purpose and organisation, as well as grammar work. and then moved on to joint negotiation and construction. So students were writing on different topics of immediate concern, and then students moved on to the independent construction stage, where they wrote 3 drafts, which were all reviewed by a teacher with feedback given in relation to structure and grammar. Congpen reports that the process was generally well received, and the end result was increased confidence and a clearer grasp on what was expected in terms of academic writing. Students did express that they would like most time to be spent on the independent writing stage rather than the earlier stages. And they wanted practice in writing. They wanted to practice their writing. Congpen suggested that, on reflection, the more explicit explanation of the purpose of the activities in the earlier stages would have helped students have a greater appreciation for the foundational work in developing awareness of the text structure. When you're working on the building knowledge of the field stage, modelling of the text stage, giving students a clear idea of why you are doing that will help them through those activities as well. Let's have a look at some sub-skills that students will need. So some of the sub-skills within academic writing will include describing, defining, exemplifying, classifying, hypothesizing, comparing, contrasting, justifying, sequencing, explaining, showing cause and effect, as well as concluding statements. And students need to practice writing statements and paragraphs that fulfill each of these functions. So you'll give your students activities on writing a paragraph to describe something, writing a paragraph to define something, write a paragraph to justify, write a paragraph to explain, etc., etc. And finally, we're going to look at preventing plagiarism. So when writing in a second language, the temptation towards plagiarism is a constant dilemma. Students from educational backgrounds that value rote memorization of long passages, seeing that as evidence of learning, need to be aware that in Western educational contexts, use of lengthy quotations is discouraged in favour for explanations in your own words with the original source acknowledged and referenced. All quotations must be encased by quotation marks, acknowledged and referenced, and where someone else's idea, long or short, are incorporated into a new work, the original author should be acknowledged and referenced. Training in paraphrasing, summarizing, using synonyms, varying active voice and passive voice, along with correct referencing, will also help students to make appropriate use of source material. So in these videos, we've had a look at listening, speaking, reading, and writing in terms of the academic context. Task analysis reveals the skills needed to be successful in an academic context. Development of listening, speaking, reading, and writing skills in relation to these tasks can be purposefully targeted through a genre-based approach to language learning, highlighting textual features of specific text types. With these keys and well-developed grammatical competence, students can confidently and capably create and interpret text as required. It is relatively easy to identify the language tasks engendered by the formal activities of academic study, but it's helpful to recognize and address the language tasks that also run alongside of the formal requirements. For example, the need to socialize with peers in a variety of settings outside of the classroom, during breaks and between classes and on weekends, within formal study groups, and also the need to interact with administration and library staff. Strictly speaking, these activities are not generally the focus of an EAP course, but a quick activity focusing on something more light-hearted can be a useful mechanism for relieving the intensity of EAP.